Well, sometimes this amazing game of ours makes you, makes you take a step back and realize you don't really always know what's going to happen. In fact, you hardly ever know what is going to happen when you head into a game, because this one had all the makings as the Bruins went into Washington after a day off, but to take on the very good Washington Capital team that was coming off the road after about 5 or 6 games to have one big game at home before heading back out for 2. It had all the makings of a not a scheduled loss, but of a probable loss, given the fact that the Bruins, without Charlie McAvoy, Brandon Carlo, both of their goalies, keep going down the list. And yet all they do is they go out and play what myself and I think Razor, I'll let him yell at me yes or no in a minute after I get through this long-winded intro, played their best goddamn game of the year. And they go in and beat the Washington Capitals 4-2. Welcome into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Whew. Holy shit, that was a lot, Razor. Sorry for the long intro. Good to see you, buddy, again.
You just keep going for the next
morning after
minutes. We're good.
The morning after the Boston Bruins, would you agree, played their most complete game of the season?
I'd love to disagree in one way or another, but it was as good as I've seen them play all season as I can remember for a full 60 minutes, and to get the contributions up and down the lineup from everybody. This is the first time, certainly since we did this show, that we are not saying everybody but this guy, or this line was really good, but this line, this defense pair was great, but this one guy, It was front to back, top to bottom. Everybody's best game collectively against, again, what's supposed to be one of the best teams in the division, and now we've talked about hope, and we've talked about what we think of this team, and you come off of this one and you think, wow, they can beat anybody in this division. So it's like you said, it's a wild game, and it's an even wilder season here in the NHL.
So a few other games as I cheat and look over my sheet on my screen, that as I look at the Bruins schedule, that come to mind as potential comparisons. They beat Philly January 23rd, 6-1. I thought that was a good game, but Philly ended up looking like crap, and the Bruins took advantage of it, right? Third period stuff. There was the 4-1 win over the New York Rangers after losing the previous game. That was a pretty complete game, but that wasn't the Washington Capitals. Now, the 5-1 win over the Caps, I guess on March 5th, where the Bruins absolutely gave them the big-time you-know-what after Carlo got hit by Tom Wilson. I guess you could argue that could be a complete game right up there. But otherwise, I mean, I just think from a hockey that sounds dumb. I was going to say a hockey perspective. I don't know what other kind of perspective we're talking about. But from a complete game effort, playing the right way, as you said, everybody involved. I just don't think there's another game that says full roster complete like this one.
And I was right with you when you were going to say hockey perspective, and whatever that means. It's just I don't know what it means, but I know what you were meaning by it, is that like even that 5-1 win, that's emotional, and Tom Wilson and the hit, and you could see why that group would get up for that and try and get, but this was methodical from a hockey perspective. This is what, they just went out and played. They didn't need an emotional hit. They didn't need anything to happen. They were just going to get to their game, stay on their game, and play it all the way through 60 minutes, the way that we're accustomed to seeing the last few years, that we haven't really seen through 35 games.
So nice to get off to another great start as Jeremy Lauzon gets credited with the goal. I thought, and we did the game together on Thursday night, I thought that Bergeron may have tipped it. Obviously, he didn't. The official scores.
We didn't get great replays today from that game.
Yeah, I agree. That was, and I'm not looking to bash, but that was that telecast was, the telecast folks are generated by the home team, always by the home crew, and because of COVID, nobody's traveling, and anyways. we rely on them. Mm-hmm. And holy smokes, were the replays not good. Anyway, Lausanne pumps it from the point. We had talked about how they needed that. They needed that in this game. You know, they needed pucks to get through and not get blocked 18 feet out in front of the net, 12 feet out in front. So they did just that. But it was all generated off of a good, simple forecheck, getting pucks in. They flipped the puck in numerous times. They didn't screw around in this game at any time. So they're out 1-0. And I also thought that early goal had a real impact on Samsonov, whatever we're calling him, the goalie for the Washington Capitals, because he hasn't been great lately. And I think having a goal that was kind of like, oh no, are you kidding me? Go in instead of getting beat. I mean, you tell me if I'm full of it or not. I mean, wouldn't you rather almost get beat by a great shot if you're a goalie than one of those, oh, no, not one of these days again?
No question about it. The way his first period, and he ended up making, Bruins had a great first period, 18 shots, so he ended up making 16 of 18, but there's no way at any point he felt comfortable the way he was moving and sliding, and he just had all kinds of movement for a big guy, and he's pretty economical, last couple seasons, so he's not feeling comfortable. He wasn't feeling confident tonight, and the Bruins were able to get a couple by him, to make him pay for that. And certainly to start the game like that, you could tell that takes the wind out of, because all the guys on the Caps know he's struggling a little bit. So that, as well as on top, if Bergeron goes in or Pasta goes in on a breakaway and scores, the guys are like, oh, okay. But just as much as for Samsonov, the goaltender, for the entire bench, they know he's struggling, and they knew that he couldn't really afford to give one of those up on a night like tonight.
We talked after that 5-1 game about how the Capitals' defense, when you turn them, and I guess you can say this about a lot of teams, you force them to play deep in their own zone. But I really think that this is something, because of the size of a few of their guys, Chara, obviously, Dylan being another one. I don't know if I think the footwork, well, I think offensively, Carlson's got some great footwork. I don't know about defensively. I think if you make them turn, spin, and then have to find their guys, if they can't play you straight up, I don't think they're a great team defensively in that regard. And the Bruins, getting pucks in, got rewarded, not once but twice in the first period. So Lausanne gets the goal from the punch shot from the point from the left side, but then Anton Bleed, that was all about forcing him to play down low. And yes, it's a fortunate bounce off the stanchion, and the puck from the right side, literally couldn't have come any more perfect to the front of the net where he had his stick down and then just swatted it in. But if Razor, you can tell me if I'm full of shit or not. I'm being serious here, more or less. But I'm always harping on the kids, stick on ice, stick on ice, stick on ice. The difference between on ice and 2 to 4 inches off the ice, right there, that Bleed goal doesn't happen if his stick is 2 inches off.
1,000%.
So I know I am.
Yeah, of course you are. But that goes without saying. It goes without saying that it does, and that's the difference in the NHL, especially is if he had a bobbled it a little bit. Samsonov's big body gets to the ice and probably gets a pad on it because he's in so tight. But to your point, Bleed gets right across the crease, his stick's on the ice, and it just finds his stick like a magnet. And he's able to swat it in. But yeah, if it bounces under, or if he's got his stick up in the air and it goes under him and he has to go and reach for it, by then he's got 2 guys on him and the goaltender's ready to make a save.
Yeah, or he doesn't even get the puck.
Yeah.
It's just by him.
It's just into the slot and going down the other way.
Right. It's like, and we're sitting there after we're eating our salads and you're eating your Chipotle, and we're like, oh, that was so close.
Could have used that one.
Tonight was a Chipotle bowl. It was Chipotle for you, and it was my favorite.
It was afternoon Chipotle too. I drove by earlier in the day, so that's why I sent you the message.
That's true, because you sent me that early text. It
was a midday.
You're not worried about rotten Chipotle? You're not worried about that?
I probably should be, but no, I couldn't resist. Drove by, I couldn't resist. I had a soccer practice.
And folks, I'm telling you.
I do love it. And I haven't had it all. I haven't had the whole homestand. I didn't have any of it.
That is true. So that's what that Sammy P should be doing, that like the predict the game thing. How quickly will Razor eat his his Chipotle because he hasn't had it. So I had my favorite salad, if anybody's wondering, the apple and pear walnut salad, outstanding, from the Village Cafe. If anybody's ever around the Village Cafe in Newtonville, I highly recommend it, breakfast or lunch. Anyways, so I also highly recommend this Bruins team continuing their play in the second period. That's an awful segue, but I want to get back to talking hockey. And they get some power plays called against them, some penalties called against them. Do we want to rant on it or not? Like, do we want to, the bleed penalty was a penalty, the first one. He slashed her, tripped. Was it Eller?
Yeah, it was Eller.
I'm forgetting her. And then I call that that's a minor hockey double minor that they called there, because he did push him when he was down. But that's where the referee goes up to him and says, "Don't do that again."
Yeah,
don't do that. Act like a pro. Don't do that. If you do, I'm going to ding you again.
Yeah, to your point, the minor hockey. That's the one where you teach the kid a lesson to give him an extra two. Like, that's a little unsportsmanlike, a little outside the rules. Don't do that anymore. But at the National Hockey League level, it's just kind of the way it's played. And referees and game management, those things are important in that situation. You don't need to get... And the reason you don't do that is because of what happened next, is when you call an interference penalty and then the team's 5-on-3 for 4 minutes. That's why you don't do that. So you have yourself a little bit of wiggle room for when the next penalty's called. And that's we don't need to rant about it at all. I just think it compounded on the referees in that 2 minutes of calling a couple penalties they didn't necessarily need to call, and it allowed Capitals. It really affected the game for the back half of that game.
Yeah, it did. And I guess I jumped ahead, but before we get to, let's go to the Marchand goal, because it needs to be described by you. You did a beautiful job talking about the goaltender, what he could or couldn't do there. But this was actually on a Zaboral penalty that happened earlier in the period where Marchand and Bergeron go down on what was a 2-on-1 from pretty much their own zone. High marks, though, to Ovechkin. He kicked ass on his back. He hauled ass on his back check down the middle of the ice. But Marchand brings the puck in, going against Schultz, and he's coming down that left side. He waits him out. Bergeron does the straight line far post. He's screeching towards that far post, which he has to do to keep the ice open. And all of a sudden, Schultz leaves his feet backwards. He goes swimming backwards, and he slides back. And he actually takes himself out of the play too soon. And as soon as he starts going down, I don't know if Marchand felt he was going to dive or if he was going to do this move regardless, but he does toe drag to a mohawk, to hands come, he's a lefty, so hands come high inside to a backhand. Holy smokes, Razor. What a move. And we had the beautiful super slow-mo going. It really showed the edge work, the opening up. But take us through the goalie's perspective of that, because when Schultz starts diving, that breaks everything down.
That's right. And so Samsonov's got to come back. He's got to retreat a little bit. He's got a little bit of depth, losing a little bit of depth. And then as Schultz hits the deck and Brad basically comes to a stop and goes laterally there, then you see the goaltender come out. Samsonov comes out to take that shot right away. And then Marchand has enough time to pull it, to your point, pulls it all the way across the body, all the way across the net. And that's why Samsonov's flailing at that point, because he's got the pass originally, the D-man takes that away, then he's got the shot if Marchand shoots it right away. Mm-hmm. But if Marchand has enough time to cut it all the way across the net, as a goaltender, you're done, because you can only play it so long and giving anything up. Because, again, if Samsonov stays deep, then Marchand just pulls it around him and rips it. He has all kinds of room. So just a wonderful hockey sense, common sense play that from a guy that can do the edge work, that does have the hands to pull it around. It's a rare combination, and that's why we see Brad do it. And we're going to watch that goal all year, because it'll be one of the best of the season. Yep. There's no question. And Samsonov was dead to rights once he gets pulled to the middle.
No chance. No.
And there's nowhere, and Marchand still can keep going to the outside. He's done.
So after that tremendous goal, and Marchand now with 30 career shorthanded goals.
Nuts.
30. Amazing. And they really did waste a great back check by Ovechkin there. You now go 3-2 after the Bruins get called the aforementioned penalties that were called. Listen, the Jacob Zaboral interference on Connor Sherry. But I just want to say this. I mean, I always use this as the litmus test. How would I feel if that went the other way? Right? Meaning if a Bruin player, let's say it was DeBrusque pushing into a defenseman, let's say it was Schultz for argument's sake, and Schultz stepped up. If that was the case, I would say, okay, that's a penalty, but geez, that's a pretty tough call. Like the Bruins got kind of lucky to make that a 5-on-3. You're entitled to that ice as a defenseman. You're actually entitled to stand there and hold that ice too. You are. You're not supposed to make yourself bigger. That's the term, talking to some officials. You're not supposed to make yourself bigger, but you are entitled to step up and to take that ice. And Zaboral kind of put his stick up a little bit too, Razor, not to cross-check height, but stick up a little bit. You're entitled to that. And I felt Connor Sherry just smartly skated into him. He drove into him.
Gave the Pittsburgh Sid the Kid head back a little bit.
He used to play with him.
He learned
that.
Yes. Listen, the first penalty on bleed's a penalty nowadays. The slashing, the hooking, whatever that was called in the neutral zone. The other two calls are maybe calls standalone individually in the middle of a first period. Maybe they're called. But to call all three of those collectively within a minute is crazy. To call that Zaboral you're not setting the tone. You just can't call that and change the game the way it got changed because of that Zaboral interference. That's the way again, if that Zaboral interference happens in the first period, all right, the refs saw it a different way.
But here we're at that problem. We're at that crossroad.
Yeah.
Game management, and if it's a penalty in the first, and it should be a penalty here. But I mean, I think that's an easy one right there. By the way, for them to say, "Wait a second, they skated."
Yeah, it's not a penalty. It's just not a penalty. Yeah,
it's right. And I don't think Washington would have said boo. I don't. And if that happened against the Bruins the other way, I don't think the Bruins would have said boo. Now, here's the other thing, and I really don't want to rant here too much, so I won't. I don't know if both officials had their arms up for the interference call. I do know that the young referee made the in-arena call. He went to the penalty box area to make it. So I'm assuming that he had it. Now, I mean, of course he had to, because he had his, he made the announcement. Why am I saying that? The NHL, as they've done in the past, but more so than ever this year, folks. Well, I don't know who the hell I'm calling fellas. That sounded stupid too. Too tired, man. They're using more refs out of the American League that are on part-time gigs in the NHL because, a few guys retired. One guy got let go, as we know recently. But then also there's a couple of guys injured. One of the best in the business, Chris Rooney's out for the year. Had surgery. He's out. And so they're using a lot of officials that are getting, you want to talk about trial by, fire. Oh, my God. And that's what I felt there. I felt that was a young official making a call that he's like, nope, that's a call, so I got to make it. And
yeah.
Here's the good news. After 2 power play goals, bang, bang, Ovechkin one-timer, TJ Oshie one-timer. The Bruins, I don't even know if they bent. I really don't know if they bent at all. They definitely didn't break, obviously. But between their leadership of Marchand and Bergeron, Kevin Miller on the back, and we're going to touch on him and Lausanne in 1 second. They came out and played a damn good third period, Razor. They did. They came out and reestablished.
Yeah, and I get it's not the same, but there's similarities in how they had to reset after second periods the last 2 games on the road with leads going tied, close games, I should say, going into the third period. Philadelphia blew the doors off them in the second period, and this one's a little different because it was out of their control a little bit more. But they got they lost the period. They got the doors blown off them a little bit in a quick succession. So they were able to to regroup the way they did and not give anything up in either third period in close games on the road against two good teams is encouraging. Really encouraging to see those guys step up the way they did and lock the door. And Swayman did his job, didn't give anything up for free. But again, there was no real big odd man rushes, no glaring saves that he had to make. He just had to be solid.
Yeah, yeah, and solid is beautiful. Like
for this group, solid's been good for 20 years.
So let's just run through a few players, quickly touch on them on this morning, Bru. Let's touch on, Swayman in general. Poise, confidence. I think there's a real clarity to his game. I guess I'm looking for words, adjectives to describe it. There's calmness. There's what is it? It's comfort.
It's modern day goaltending. This is how all of the kids. It's kids that have had goalie coaches since they were 9 years old. It's kids that know how to speak, have coaches, have fitness guys, have mental coaches. These kids, this is what the new goalies are all going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. And the generation, the gap that they're going to grow and how much better these goalies are getting in the next 5 or 6 years. You go through it, Carter Hart, Mackenzie Blackwood, Jeremy Swayman this week, Thatcher Dent. Like, this is what all of these goalies are going to look like because of their, and it's all poise, it's all economics, it's doing nothing. It is really what it is. They don't do very much in there. They get to their spots and
but that's all physical. Well, I shouldn't say it's all physical. That's not fair. But mentally, I think is what I've been most impressed with him. Is that what you're also saying about
yes, that's right. Because you go, Joey Decord in Ottawa, you talk about his interview and how much, he's always smiling and he said he does great. Jeremy Swayman, his interviews are perfect. He knows exactly what to say. He's talking about having fun and smiling out on the ice. These are all things that these guys have learned to do over the years and how to prepare and how to be the best they can. And it's not all business and no one can talk to me. It's going out and having fun and not taking it too serious.
This will be a very interesting case study then, partner, because Carter Hart is going the other direction right now. So for a guy who's always had that stuff you're talking about, how does that impact him? I don't need to get into it right now.
I was going through it in my head on the way home. So we'll do it at some point, and all the names and all the guys that have had to fight. You got to fight through it at some point. You still have to, as good as you are, at some point you're going to have to figure it out.
I don't want to guess even who's going to start for the Bruins on Saturday. We don't know about Tuukka, Swayman, Vladar, right? But who starts for Philly? I mean, do you put Hart back in? He played on Thursday night, and he's and Elliott played the first game for the Bruins. They won. I'll bet he goes back to Elliott. I'll bet you Vigneault goes back to Elliott on Saturday. That's just my guess. Who knows?
Yeah, I would have got that wrong too. I would have thought Elliott was going to play tonight for them after Carter Hart losing, and Elliott actually got the win the other night. But
I think they're trying to get him.
No, they are.
I think they're trying to get Hart going. And if he won on Thursday, he would have played him Saturday. I'll bet you he goes back to Elliott Saturday. All right, a couple of other names. I was going to do something real hokey, like I was going to be like strong brew or dark roast. Medium. You go to. It's so hokey that it may actually work. But I thought about it. Like I was going to have us give grades to some of these guys.
We have to go and find the craziest coffee names or something like that. I bet there's some kind of random stuff.
We could.
Yeah,
there absolutely is. But so many of these guys were good. I think it's going to be redundant. But all right, Chris Wagner, best game of the year, right? That was bold, man. That was like for him, for me, that was double shot espresso.
Yeah.
Like I loved what I saw of him because I identified Chris Wagner in that game. His line was this: 2 shots on goal, 3 more attempts, 3 hits, 3 blocks. Damn good line in 12 and a half minutes of ice.
It's a really good line. And the eye test was even better. Just him getting on his horse. And it seemed as though getting that first game in Philly and being on the ice at the end of the game gave him a lot of confidence going into this game. So good on him. And it was very noticeable how important, especially, Bleed did a good job, but how important Corral and Wagner are. When those two guys are skating the way they were tonight, it's very, very noticeable how it makes this team move.
Yeah. I'm not sure where I am, by the way, on Anton Bleed just yet. I'm not sure. But some good, some you know. But we said in our post game, and I think it's true, if you got to rotate guys on that fourth line to keep them all chomping, to keep them all percolating, to use a coffee reference
I
type
think,
of thing.
and
So
I think
be
the
it then.
idea is
So
right
be
when you get to the crunch time, the real stuff, the playoffs. That they always had four guys for that line, and that's when they went on the run.
Good point.
I think that works best because it is hard to keep that energy up. So if you have four guys rotating through back there, that's beneficial.
A couple of other guys. Jeremy Lauzon had the goal, 25 minutes and 10 seconds, 2 shots, couple of other attempts, 2 hits, 2 blocks. Check this number out. 7.5 minutes, 7:32 shorthanded.
Love it.
Of like the 9 minutes and something that the Caps had on the power play. So he played like 80-something%.
We didn't get to him,
and
and I know what Kevin Miller has come back from and what he's doing right now and how important he is to this team. But 4 or 5 days ago, we were talking about Lauzon and how much he was struggling. And the last 2 games, he is, found that, knocked the rust off from his injury as well, and really played big games and big minutes the last 2 games. Not noticeable at all. Got his goal tonight, but again, really, really solid. And I think that's gone. The way he's played and the way Miller have played, it's no coincidence that they've gotten the 2 wins since they've been back, and that they struggled when both of those guys weren't in the lineup or weren't at their best.
Speaking of Miller, either, I don't know, I said in the post game on Ness, Rambo, or I don't know what you want to call him, but I mean, he's diehard, right? I mean, the guy just survives everything. So he played 25-18, 6.5 of those were shorthanded. He had 4 total attempts. None hit the net, but 2 were missed and 2 were blocked. 5 hits and 5 blocks. And just all those numbers are whatever, but it was 1,000% full throttle, man.
He didn't let anyone get to the front of the net. He boxed everybody out. I mean, how many times? It's findable, but how many times did he play over 25 minutes the last 3 years? No.
Not many. I know.
Crazy.
I mean, a few, maybe. Maybe.
That's huge chip in by him.
Yeah, I got to imagine he has the day off tomorrow to rest up for Saturday, for doing that. The Friday.
He doesn't need it.
By the way, the Bruins are scheduled to practice Friday at, I think it's 12 or 12:30 in Philly. Sean Corrali, I thought very good. Man, oh man, he gets some golden chances. By the way, Sean Corrali played 15:02, which was the second most of any Bruins centerman. This is an interesting little thing. Patrice Bergeron, he ended up playing 21 minutes. Corrali played 15 minutes. Your other 2 centers, Charlie Coyle, played 14, and then David Krejci played 14 and a half. So on the one hand, a lot of good balance. On the other hand, would you regularly expect Corrali to play more? I know people are going to say, well, he kills penalties dumbly. I get that, but so does Charlie Coyle kill penalties.
David Krejci plays power play.
Corrali played more. Exactly. So just interesting time there. Loved Nick Ritchie in the sense of scrap, appropriate time. He went at it with Garnet Hathaway, who was being
he was trying to get things going.
To his credit, he was trying to do what he needed to do to get his team going when they were down by a couple in the first. And I thought Nick Ritchie just said, next shift, no. You're with me. Nobody else. Let's go.
Yep. Nick Ritchie chipping in again. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, we could go through the. Here's the deal. Everybody was damn good. Everybody was really, really good. They kept Ovechkin to a goal, a 5-on-3 goal. He was a -3 in the game. He did have 4 shots and a couple of hits. I didn't really. I'll tell you who I didn't notice at all was
I knew you. I'm glad you went there. That's who I was going to bring up too. We didn't talk about that, folks. We had not teed that up. But yeah, Kuznetsov was a ghost out there.
I didn't see him at all. The other guy I didn't notice that much was Backstrom, who's had a phenomenal year. Nicholas Backstrom was 0 for 7 in the faceoff circle. Patrice Bergeron was 18 wins, 5 losses. And I'm going to bet you Bergeron Well, he went 4 for 4
against Backstrom.
against Nicholas Backstrom. Coyle went 1 for 1, and Krejci went 2 for 2. Holy smokes!
What
all
a
the
beating.
best guys there. So, what a beating! So great. Look, a great game. Now we keep saying this. Got to build on it. They're 7-2-2 in their last 11. It doesn't feel it, and it may not always look it, but they are that. So that's the good news. All right. That'll wrap this morning brew with Jaffe and Razor up. Thursday night, the Bruins win 4-2 over the Washington Capitals. The Bruins continue their road trip on Saturday. It is a 2 o'clock face-off from Philadelphia. Sunday night, the Bruins will come back home and take on the Washington Capitals, the very team that they played on Wednesday night. So everybody, enjoy your Friday. It's supposed to be nice weather.
Yeah.
Right? It's looking okay right now, but it's early in the morning, so we'll have to wait and see. But it's supposed to be a beautiful day. Have a great day if you're in the Massachusetts area. If you're not, we've got a lot of people listening in Canada. Thank you very much, by the way. We love you. We love our Canadian listeners. Starting to get more and more questions about these two, and we've said it a few times.
These being mugs.
Keep saying it. These being mugs. Sorry. Yes, you're right. I'm holding them up. Eventually, mugs will be sold. We're not in the mug business, though, right now. The numbers are getting great, folks. We're building this thing slowly. We're building this for the long haul, not the short term. Okay? So bear with us. We don't want to be in the mug business.
I want Billy to be in the mug business, everybody, but Billy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Kiss my ass, Razor. Yeah. We'll get Mason on that or something. No, the last thing I want to do is start shipping mugs. Oh, I got my mug. It's broken. Billy, you're an asshole. Refund my money. Oh, morning brew's great. Right. Yes, we're building this to be sustainable in the long haul, and we're working on distribution for that. Anyways, everybody, have a wonderful Friday. We will talk with you again after Saturday's game. Bruins win 4-2. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and always enjoy your damn coffee.